so far, we've made the table. So remember, start at 0, and initial cost is 3,600, so that should be in there. Okay. And then it goes down by 400 each month. That's how much the balance goes down. Notice how we're talking about the balance and how much we owe. If we're talking about how much we paid, it'd be going up by 400 each month, right? If we paid 400, then the next month we have paid 800 total. So this question can be asked in a different way. It doesn't necessarily have to be counted down. Depends. All right. So we have this going all the way down. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it ends at 9. Is that correct? Yeah. So by 9, that's when 9 months. That's when we're gonna owe more. Now this is important because this helps us decide on our graph what should we count by. We know the months need to go to just 9, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can fit everything on here. Now, if we didn't have enough squares, we'd have to count by 2, something like that. But what about the y-axis? What should we count by on the y-axis? We can't count by 1s. We need to get the 3,600. Yeah, it's logical to count by 400 because that's what we're going down, and that way when we're doing the slope and down, going down and over, we get to go down 1 square for 400. So this will be 400, 800. I want to label every other, just so it doesn't get all crowded. Just might be something you want to try, because if you try to label everything else, it just looks really crowded and messy. Okay, unless you can write small and neat. So this is 1,600, and this would be 2,000. 2,400 and 2,800, 3,200 and 3,600. We already said earlier that because you can't have fractions of payments, it's not like sometimes you're going to make $400 payment, and other times you're going to make $360.87 payment. You can't have fractions of any of these, therefore it is discrete. And you do not want to connect discrete. You do not want to connect these the coordinates together when we plot those. So we know we start at 3,600. That was the beginning at 0. After 1 month, it costs 32. 2 months we owe this much. 3 months we owe this much. What's the nice thing about visuals that you just have to continue a pattern. And then we'll leave the points like this. Not going to draw a line for them. What is this a graph of? This is a graph of. What's your question?
Car payment.
Car payment, money. Car payment. We need to label this. We should be able to look at the graph and only the graph and know it's a graph of. So we know that this is money. What are these numbers down here? Months. Yeah. Label everything. Even though it's obvious to you because you read everything, but if you're doing presentations about some problem, usually you do presentations with graphs, and people are not going to be doing reading everything that you read. They're just going to look at the graph, and they want to know what does this mean. But without all this information, they don't know what it's a graph of. So always have those labels. Those actually count for points on your test. Small but insignificant points, but nonetheless. Okay, so make sure you give the graph a title, label each units. All right, good. So far, so good. And we know it's discrete. Okay, so what is the y-intercept? We already said it earlier. Okay. So it's 0, 3,600. Or you could say, the y-intercept, remember, is b. You could say b equals 3,600. Either way, those are acceptable. Let's see here. And what does it mean? What was 3,600 in the question? What did it say? Yeah, how much the car cost. So all this time when we were doing y-intercepts, we haven't been saying what it means, but it's the starting point. Okay, that's how much the car costs. Cost of car. And really, that's if you got that easy, that's the only thing new today. Can you say what these numbers actually mean in some real life situation? Cost of the car. Okay. And what was the slope of the equation? Okay. Okay, is it positive or negative? Negative, right? It's going down, so we know the slope is negative. Why is it negative? Because, yeah, the balance is going down each month. That's why. It's going down, therefore it's negative. The balance is going down. So we know this is negative 400. Right? What does that mean? It's really negative 400 over 1 would be okay. So that's negative, I guess we want to say negative. We'd say balance, and you can use any sort of wording, but I'm going to say balance decreases $400 per month. I'm not doing well with spelling today. $400 per month. Good pointer on both of these. I guess I should say this as well here on part B. When you're saying what does it mean in context of the problem, here and here, use make sure you include the units. So don't just say, like on A, you can say the y-intercept is 3,600. What does it mean in context of the problem? It's $3,600, right? And the y-intercept is always the units of whatever the y variable is, of course. And then when you're doing the slope, remember slope is rise over run, which is x over y. So you should be having both units, like dollars per month, like we did here. Okay, so slope should include both units. Explaining what it means. Decreases $400 per month. There's my y variable, my x variable. And usually it's per month or per day or something like that. So small but important details for those two. Okay, what is the equation? Now that we have the m, we have the n from C, and we have the b from here, what's the equation? Right? Y equals. Which number comes first? Negative 400 or 3,600? Negative 400, and then plus 3,600. What's missing and where does it go? Negative 400. Yeah. That's the slope, right? How do I know the x goes there? Okay, this is the part that's changing. It's going down by $400. The balance going down by $400 a month. That's why the variable is here. The 3,600 doesn't change. No matter what, throughout the whole problem, the car still started at this cost of 3,600. Does not change. If you reverse that, what would that mean? And what if you did this? And you put the x over here. What would that mean?
That would mean that that's how they're starting.
Yeah, that would mean your car initially costs negative $400, which doesn't make any sense, and you're paying $3,600 per month. Alright, so where that variable goes is actually very important. Are you paying $3,600 per month? Is that the slope? Or are you balance going down $400 per month? That's very important. Know the difference. Alright, and the last four are just using the equation you just got. So really, E goes with 4, 5, and 6. Now you can get these answers from the graph, from the chart on the front, but eventually what we're going to end up is not having a graph and not having a chart and only having the equation. So we want to know how to get these answers from the equation as well. But we could just look at, it's asking about what's the balance after 4 months. We could go over here and figure out, if I finish this, on the front, that the balance after 4 months would be $2,000. I could also see it right here. The balance after 4 months is $2,000. But how do you get that same answer of $2,000 using the equation? And all you have to know is that months is x, right? So you take your equation and you plug in x equals 4 in your equation. And that should give you the same answer. So it's kind of nice because it's like a built-in check. You don't get the same answer that you got here on your graph and your table up front. And yes, please write out the work and the steps. You're not going to have a table and a graph to check with, after those. So we got negative initial cost, $3,600. So basically it's the same. After 4 months, we're going to pay $1,600 off the balance. Initial balance was $3,600, so subtract it, we get $2,000. So it agrees with what we thought it was going to be. We're going to repeat that process with number 5. Same thing. It says 7 months. You just have to know, well, what variable is months? X equals 7. So you know to plug in the money for the months for X. Once again, so this is just a extra practice. So after 7 months, you'll have paid $2,800. You take away that $2,800 paid after 7 months from the initial $3,600 that the car cost. How much money, or what's the balance now? Subtract the 2, and you get $800 left after 7 months. You might see also some follow-up questions here in the future, like, and what does this mean? You know, kind of like what's the right above where it says, what does the y-intercept mean in the context of the question? They might ask something like that here. Well, what does the answer mean in the context of this question? After 7 months, the balance is $800. So something simple, using any particular words. Okay, and how many months will it take Michael to pay off his car payment? Now you notice how on the first two, it said very clearly, 4 months. So x equals 4. 7 months. X equals 7. What does it mean as far as the balance to pay off? What's the balance if you paid off a car? 0. You got to kind of know that. Okay, it's not going to be in the problem. It's not going to explain to you. But this is the same as saying the balance is 0. Now, what variable is the balance? X or Y? The money. Balance. Yeah, what variable is the money? X or Y?
Y.
Y. Right? So if they're asking when the balance is 0, they're asking when is Y equal to 0. They're not asking, well, 0 months would be before you start paying off the car. So it's important to see, like on 4 and 5, they're asking about months. Here they're asking, when is the balance 0? So when you do this one, you plug in for Y. Right? So Y equals negative 400x plus 3,600. And by the way, what's the answer to this question? You already know it. 9. Yeah, we knew that up here. Okay, when it's paid off, it takes 9 months. So we already kind of knew that their answer should come out to equal 9, but definitely show that you can get the answer from the equation. Now, if you think about, well, how can we want to use the equation here? Well, ask yourself, how long did it take to make that whole table, make that whole graph, and do all that work? And how long did it take to actually just make an equation? Right? And what if the payments was like a house payments, which if you get like a 30-year loan and you make payments every month, right? That's 360 payments. Do you really want to make a table with 360 rows on it? You know, it goes all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go all the way to 360? Probably not. So tables and graphs are nice for like small numbers and a little bit of data. But if you got real life and you start doing some real stuff, yeah, probably wouldn't be very nice to make a table for every situation. We need to have an equation and use that because we could plug in any number there, whether it be 5 months, 42 months, 137 months, and we can get the answer super easy with the equation, whereas the graph and table, we could not. All right, so that's the notes for the first problem, which is very similar to the homework, the very following paper. Okay? Instead of paying $400, these payments are $300. Okay? And instead of starting with $3,600, starting with $2,100. You notice the wording in the situation is different, but how you solve it is similar. Okay? So I want you to align these two together that, well, one was paying off a car, and this one is payments as well. They're basically solved the same way. If you're making payments, this is how you do it. Start at some amount, and it starts decreasing. The balance goes down because you're making payments. You don't owe as much after each month. Okay? All right, let's have you guys just work on this. You can work on it together as we go along. Check back and forth with the first page that we just did, and see how that goes. And we'll start the second notes in a little while. So on this second one, you'll notice if you read it that we're actually saving money. Right? We already have a certain amount saved, and then we're putting money in every month. So the difference between this and the last one is your total is actually going to go up as opposed to going down. So that's the really only thing you need to listen, read for is, well, is this situation increasing the money or decreasing? Is it getting more money each month or less? So this time we're already starting at $2,100, but we're saving. Not spending, not making a payment. So you have to associate saving with positive slope, making a payment, negative slope. You don't have to memorize that, but it should make sense. So we're going up by $300. And I won't finish the front here. You guys can do that, but just talk about the back. Whereas now the y-intercept is $2,100. What does it mean in context of the problem? That was the part where we already saved $2,100. Again, we're talking about the context, so we should have the unit. Be very picky about that. Don't just say we already have 2,100. Put the unit on that. The slope. The number is just 300, but what does it mean in context of the problem? Saving $300 for each month. So the context for slope will have both the x and the y. Usually it's x and then y. $300 per month. Make sure again both those are in there. Units. And the equation, same as before. $300 per month we're going to save. Every month $300 increase on top of the $2,100 we already had. And then we can plug in months, that's again x. Time is usually going to be almost always x. And you can see the format is very similar to the example that you've already seen and sent almost did. And this one, though, it's somewhat different because before was, when was the car going to be paid off? So we had to figure out, well, paid off means the balance is zero, we can avoid zero. But they're talking about cost. When is the cost of $5,100? Okay. What if we're talking about y? The money, the units really give it away what variable it is. So if you look at your T chart on the front, the x's are months, so on the back, if you're doing word problems, you're wondering, well, is the 8x or y? Well, it's the same. If the question has a dollar sign in it, you know that's the y variable. Really look at the units to guide whether it's going to be x or y. So, they're asking, okay, when can we save up $5,100? So they're saying, well, we already have $2,100 to begin with. So that's a given. We don't have to worry about that. Take out the $2,100. That leaves us $3,000. And if we're saving $300 per month, how many months is that? $300 per month to get the $3,000. 10 months to save up $5,100. Okay, $2,100 to start with. Means we need to actually save $3,000. We need to keep saving so we save up $3,000, and at $300 a month, that would take 10 months. 300 times 3,000. And nothing more than that. So you can see, I hope the way you're seeing this and the way it's explained, that you're not looking at the word problem as, I'm so good at the math, but then I'm just not good at word problems. I hope everything we've done up to this point, you kind of go through this and you're like, well, yeah, it's easy. Like, there's not a whole lot to it. It's just like a review problem. So when you've done enough skills and you learned all the little details, and you have the foundation, once you get to the word problems, there's very little to actually add on. You did have to know like what a lease meant. So you got some real life situation there that you had to know a lease is kind of like renting, but not quite, because you can actually, if you lease something, you can also buy it at the end. So it's a little different. But yeah, and you also learned, well, it probably costs around $5,100 to go on a trip to Disney World. Pretty good number right there. The plane tickets and everything, it costs a lot of money to go take those big vacations. That takes a long time to save up to do those things. Okay, so go ahead and finish up whatever you have. We only got about 10 something minutes left to get everything done.